Hey YouTube, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. Part 2 of my Capo CUB1 1 to 18th Defender kit build. In this part, into the guts, I will open the axles and check the gears, the differential gears, which you can lock and unlock, and grease the gears as Capo recommends to do. And I also will put thread locks on the screws of the axles, because in the manual, what's only a video of about 24 minutes for the chassis build, Capo tells you to open the axles and to grease the gears. I'm not totally sure which grease I will use. Normally for my larger trucks I use this marine grease, and for the smaller trucks, the 1 to 18th and the Orlandos, this white grease. And I found also some differential gear oil, which probably I could use too. I decided to use the marine grease as in my larger trucks. Tell me if I was wrong. First of all, let's check how this differential lock and unlocking system works. Therefore I mounted tires to the rear axle and mounted the part of the drive shaft. The shafts of the Capo are simply mounted by a pin inserted, and this is only held by an O-ring. I don't really like this way of mounting them, because the O-rings get off easily normally and you will lose the pin. So I will put a piece of shrink tube here over this area and shrink it, and that way the pin and the O-ring cannot come off, or the pin cannot come out anymore. And now this wire is pushed inwards, and as you can see here, open diff turns, stops, both turn, lower wheel turns and upper wheel stops. And if you want to lock the diff, you have to push this wire, and now you can see the diffs are locked. I would really like to have a written manual by Capo or a PDF, because there's nothing told about how to adjust the differentials. I assume I read somewhere, I guess, so you will connect the differential lock unlock mechanism to the gear servo, and in second gear, so in fast speed gear, the differentials should be open, and in first gear, crawling gear, slow gear, the differentials will be locked. However, there are some parts which are not really clear. For example, those are the drive shafts, and there are clearly missing pins. So a pin should be inserted here, but the manual doesn't say anything about this. And there is a bag full of pins of different length. Probably some of those pins should be used for the drive shafts. There are at least 2 different lengths in this bag, pins of 2 different lengths, so I will have to try. Furthermore, the manual shows you to mount those kind of brake discs to the axles, but the axles do already come with those brake discs mounted. What's rather strange, the Capo wheels are mounted by 2mm hex nuts, but those are no stop nuts, and those stop shims of course scratch the beautiful brake discs, and I will not use those. I will use simple lock nuts. They look the same, but those are lock nuts, and additionally you will have to use a M2 shim for mounting. It will not work without this shim, and I did already do this here on one of the wheels. This wheel is mounted as it comes pre-mounted by Capo. So with this non-locking nut and this lock shim, and there's a pin inside, don't lose it, and in the other wheel I did already use those M2 lock nuts and a M2 shim 2. Those are really nice beadlock wheels, so good quality, as I showed you already in the unboxing video. RC 4-wheel drive 1.0 tires will fit, and Capo uses M1.6 by 4mm socket head screws, which will need a 1.5mm hex driver, and that's nice because there's super nice 1.6mm M1.6 scale hardware. So in this tire I did already mount my 1.6mm hardware, which looks much more scale. So outer hex, those are those screws. And you will need a 1.5mm socket head driver for this, something like this here. And if you don't have such a socket head driver, they are not that easy to get. You can simply use a M2 socket head screw, which will need an M1.5 hex driver. So you can use this part as driver for the hardware, for the scale hardware. Put it into a Dremel or a drill machine and sand it, as I did here many years ago with this 2mm socket head driver, and then even use the handle of one of those super cheap screwdrivers. So this was my M2 socket head driver before I bought the correct tools. So that's super easy and works fine, and you can make the balls as thin as you want and as you need. I really like those scale hex screws compared to the socket head screws, which need a 1.5mm driver. Here are the pins where those brake discs insert. I lost the pin. So instead of 7mm hex, the axles and tires of the Capo CUB1 use this style of mounting, what will make it impossible to use normal, usual 7mm hex nuts, which are used as tire adapters. So check this here, that's a simple hex nut of an SCX24. As you can see, you will probably lose the pin if you use this. And all the press upgrades for the SCX24, I do have this press hex nuts or this style. They do use the same way of mounting, so it will not be possible to use them with the Capo axles. And also the Hobby Plus 7mm hex nuts, which are used in the CR18s, CR24s, Rock Hobby Katana, Atlas 6x6, will probably not fit. You could use maybe a a little bit shorter pin and try it, but I guess because the tires are mounted that way, then there will be rubbing and this will not work either. However, it's not necessary. Those rims are really nice. I really like them. Maybe it would be nice to have a cap to close the hex nut, but anyway, they are really nice beadlock wheels, and I guess it's no need to use upgrade beadlock rims for the Capo CUB1 as those RC four-wheel drive wheels. But now let's clean up this mess here and open the axles and check how they look inside and grease them. So let's start with the rear axle. First let's take off the drive shaft. Those are all small 1.6mm M1.6 screws. Unfortunately they are not magnetic, so would prefer magnetic ones. It's easier. Guess it wouldn't be possible to assemble an Orlando without magnetic screws. So here it is. The open rear axle. Build quality really looks awesome. And the locking mechanism. Now the diff is closed. This mechanism opens and closes that diff, so that way it should be open, okay, and that way it should be closed. This can use a little bit of grease, I'm sure. Ball bearings all around, and here's also a kind of distance shim. It's good that Capo at least delivers exploded view of the axles in a picture on the USB flash drive. So it's in here that way, and that way you open and close the diff, and this mechanism should do it. This has to be placed that way. Okay, that seems to be the way to go. And now let's place the axle in guts here. And that's the way this should sit, I think, but still not super sure how this will work. So open and close and open and close. Open, close. And this tiny wire here, okay, push, okay, open, pull, close, open, pull, close, okay, so close, push, open. Okay, that's fine. And now it's time to grease this. But before messing around with the grease, let's open the front axle and check how this looks inside, and then let's grease both axles. Really nice universal joints. Wow, awesome quality seems to be. Really nice ball bearings in the C-hubs. Check this out, rubber sealed. And here's the front axle. The guts of the front axle. So no difference to the rear axle, of course. Pineapple gear, really nice ball bearings, rubber sealed. Axle houses look really well made, and here seems to be already grease inside. So the front axle seems to have grease. And the rear axle not. Hope you can see this. There seems already to be some grease inside. However, I will grease it. And the shifting mechanism, of course, is the same. Universal steering looks awesome. Hey, okay, now let's grease the axles and assemble them again. Okay, let's start with the rear axle. Now I'll use my marine grease. The diff is nearly open now. And if I pull, it should close the diff. Now the diff is closed. Okay, let's try again. Closed diff. And mechanism seems to work. I will try it if the axles are closed and after inserting the screws. Front axle, same story. Ta-ta! Let's hope this works now. Okay, this seems to work now. Open diff and pull, pull, come on. Close diff, open. Okay, let's assemble the axles first. So I'll put blue Loctite on the screws, guess a little bit should be fine. And now we would love magnetic screws. Okay, front axle done after a little bit of wiggling. And now let's finally close the rear axle. So no screw left, rear axle assembled. Hope this will work also. Okay, now it should be unlocked diff. It is. I can turn the left and right axles in opposite directions, and now I should lock it. Is it locked? Yes, it is. Phew. Okay. Not a super easy operation, but super cool stuff. And wow, what a build quality. I hope this shifting mechanism will work finally in the finished truck. But so far this stuff seems awesome. What I really would like would have been magnetic screws. This would make all this much easier, the assembly. Front axle reassembled. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video, probably only the frame build. I'll be back.